As we have seen in the first 2 episodes in this series, Kaiser Wilhelm II's huge collection of military and naval headgear and uniforms was impressive and very rare. Complementing these fine creations is an exceptionally fine collection of swords and daggers used by the emperor for wear with various uniforms or retained as gifts from other royal kings and emperors around the world. Each is of the very finest workmanship and are representative of the very peak of dress sword manufacture. In this program, we will examine some of the highlights of what remains a very large collection of imperial weapons held in storage today at Huis Doorn in the Netherlands. We begin with the Kaiser as a child. In 1863, his grandmother, Queen Victoria, gifted the young Prince Wilhelm this Scottish Highland outfit, which he wore when he visited Balmoral Castle. The tartan is of course Royal Stuart, from the previous house that ruled Britain until the death of Queen Anne and the accession of the German House of Hanover in 1760. With his first Scottish dress, the young Prince Wilhelm wore a traditional Highland dirk, worn about the waist. Later, as a grown man, Wilhelm was presented with this Scottish claymore, a traditional style of Highland sword. Wilhelm was also gifted weapons from other family members, notably his grandfather, Emperor Wilhelm I. Following Wilhelm I's death in 1888, the widowed Empress Augusta presented her grandson with this heavy Prussian lion's head sabre for officers that her husband had carried, the scabbard being duly inscribed. Wilhelm was of course royal colonel of many German and foreign regiments. In 1885 he was appointed royal colonel of the Austrian 7th Hussar Regiment by Emperor Franz Joseph. In 1910 the Austrian Emperor presented Wilhelm with this, a model 1850 cavalry officer's honorary sabre, to mark his 25th anniversary as royal colonel. It was made by Hoflieferant Striberi in Vienna. This model 1850 Austrian infantry officer's sabre was a gift to Emperor Wilhelm I, the Kaiser's grandfather, from the officers of the 34th Austro-Hungarian Infantry Regiment, of which the first Kaiser was royal colonel. The blade is inscribed with the names of Austrian and Prussian field marshals from the Napoleonic Wars. In August 1888, Wilhelm II was appointed Admiral in the Royal Swedish Navy by King Oscar II. This is a Swedish naval sabre. The following year, Queen Victoria appointed Wilhelm an Admiral of the Fleet in the British Royal Navy, and he visited his grandmother at Osborne House on the Isle of Wight in August 1889, wearing that uniform. Later he was presented with this British 1891 pattern naval officer's dress sword. This is the standard issue for day wear. He also had a parade version of this sabre. In January 1894, the officers of the elite Regiment Garde du Corps, the Kaiser's personal lifeguard unit, presented their royal colonel with this model 1876 Pallasch Prussian cavalry sword. It is inscribed with birthday good wishes to the Kaiser from the regiment's officers, and all of their names are inscribed on the back of the blade. This is one of my favorite pieces found at Huis Doorn. A beautifully made miniature model 1889 infantry officer's honorary sword in the form of a letter opener. It was presented to the Kaiser on the 1st of May 1896 when he opened the commercial exhibition in Berlin. It was made by Kirschbaum & Co. of Solingen. Here we have 2 naval daggers. On the left, as Grand Admiral of the Imperial German Navy, the Kaiser carried this model 1890 naval dagger for officers. And on the right, on the 7th of August 1897, the Kaiser was appointed an admiral in the Imperial Russian Navy by his cousin Tsar Nicholas II. He was presented with this model 1803 Russian naval dagger. The Russian Tsar also presented Wilhelm with this model 1855 Russian naval saber for admirals. Some more exotic blades are also to be found in the Huis Doorn collection. The Kaiser's brother, Prince Heinrich, visited Japan in 1900, and at least 2 Japanese swords exist today in the collection. This katana, the classic samurai weapon, was unfortunately sent for refurbishment by the museum in the 1960s, whereupon most of its original parts were stolen and replaced with copies, so this sword is largely unoriginal. However, this Japanese sword is intact and was a gift from Japanese Emperor Mutsuhito, known after his death by the regnal name Meiji. A Kazari tachi or ceremonial sword, it appears that little investigation has been made into its story, but as a gift from one emperor to another, it must be of the very finest quality, and a significant blade from an old master swordsmith, the blade probably being several centuries older than the other sword accoutrements. On the left is a model 1849 naval sabre for the Royal Danish Navy, the Kaiser being appointed an admiral by King Christian X in April 1903. Another foreign weapon is this honorary sword of the Royal Spanish Army. The Kaiser was appointed a Captain General in December 1904 by King Alfonso XIII. Sultan Mehmed V of the Ottoman Empire presented this Ottoman Kilic sword to the Kaiser when he was appointed a field marshal in the Turkish army in 1917 during World War I. And finally, a Prussian sword to finish. This is the Kaiser's parade sword of the Life Guards Hussar Regiment, and one of the last to be worn publicly by Wilhelm. When his grandson, Prince Louis Ferdinand of Prussia, married Grand Duchess Kyra of Russia at Huis Doorn in 1938, the elderly emperor wore this sword as part of his Life Guard colonel's uniform. Many thanks for watching. Please subscribe and share, and also visit my audiobook channel, War Stories with Mark Felton. You can also help to support both of my channels at PayPal and Patreon. Details in the description box below.